to JD in Missouri.
Okay. JD in Missouri. What's up,
Hi, JD.
So what's your guys' opinion on Club Soda's removal of Cumia from the cellar? Is Bill Burr in the right for not liking a racist pedophile?
The way
I think you're putting a little exposition in there.
You'd be a good lawyer, though.
I'll tell you what happened. I wasn't there when it happened, but what happened was Wednesday night, and this is as much as I know, I was doing my hour at the Fat Black Pussycat, and I was sitting there, and you could hang up, Travis.
I got you.
Just listen, JD. I wound up. I got there to the Comedy Cellar probably around 6:30, 6:40. I get my beverage and I walk around to the Fat Black and do my set. So I'm sitting there with Greg Rogel, and Anthony came in. I didn't know he was coming. We said hello and we chatted, and I walked him over, and he came into my show. I got him a seat because I think they were going to seat him upstairs. There's a little VIP area, but he wanted to actually sit on the actual floor.
Nice.
So as I'm doing my set, it got a little loud at one point, but I didn't know where the noise was coming from.
And you're used to very, very quiet when you're performing. Not a lot of laughs, not a lot of reaction at all.
Well, in that room is very strange because you have the room, and then right next to it you have the bar, and then below it you have the Village Underground. So there's 3 shows happening, 2 shows at once and 1 show about to be seated. So after my set, I took my camera off. Annie filmed it, and I get right out of that room. It's a tiny room. I always walk out of the room, and I don't stay in the bar area because there's another show going on. So I walked out and I crossed the street, and I texted Anthony. I'm like, "Are you still here?" And I sent him 3 texts. And I never heard back from him, so I assumed that he left to do whatever it was he might have had planned that night. And then the next morning, I texted him the next afternoon, like 3:00. I'm like, "Hey, are you alive?" Because I didn't hear from him, and he goes, "Yeah, man, great night." Aunt sent me a text, great night. We chatted all day. This is how nuts Anthony is. We chatted all day. I had no idea that happened. Maybe he assumed I knew. I had no idea that happened until 2:00 in the morning Thursday night, which is about 30 hours after it happened. I got a communication from somebody who was there in the peripheral.
Communique.
Yeah, a communique. I like to say communication. Mm. So
I like that you're putting hours on it and everything. Like,
I'm just telling you what, because people... When you hear something like this, people assume, well, how come you... and it's amazing to me how wrong people get the story most of the time, how wrong people get it.
People thought you were involved?
Or that, like, he's afraid to talk about it. Like, I got an email, let's be honest, but people, well, you're not going to talk about it. I'm like, I haven't talked to Bill, and I haven't talked to Anthony.
Plus, we didn't do a show.
I mean,
where were you going to talk? You're just going to go onto a hilltop and
obviously. I mean, the stupidity of people. That's what I'm saying. How wrong they get it. How wrong they get our take on it. Or
it was the weekend.
It was the weekend, and I don't feel a need to rush onto Twitter until I've spoken to the people involved, and I haven't.
It'd be real weird if you jumped on Twitter and made your official statement on the matter.
Yeah. But I would like to talk to the people involved first. I don't know how it happened. I did hear what Ant said about it. I heard something from somebody who was at the cellar, but I have not spoken to Anthony himself or Bill himself. But I'll say this, it sucks. And when you're friends with all the people involved, I mean, Anthony is like my brother. Kenny is like a brother. Like, I'm very close to Kenny. I know him longer than I know Anthony. And Bill I know for probably longer than all of them. I'm closer to Kenny and Bill because Kenny and Ant, because I've spent so much time with Kenny and Anthony. But when it's people that you love that much and there's a
rift,
what's the word? Irreparable rift.
Yes.
I mean, what do you say about it? It sucks. And it sucks to see your people that you really like. And you kind of get accustomed to watching people you like fighting. Like, every podcast is fucking war. And the reason I don't get involved in it is I'm not interested in podcasts. Everyone's fighting with Stuttering John. I like Stuttering John. This one's fighting with that one. I like Shuley. I like Carl. And I like all these guys. So I don't insert myself into every fucking argument that's happening. And people are like, what, you're not going to take a stand? About what? There's people that have a problem with each other. And I would like to find out from Anthony or speak to Bill or to Kenny and find out exactly what happened. But I haven't done that.
I will say, I mean, so the story is that Anthony tried to talk to Bill at the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah, Bill was there. And I guess had gone over to the cellar after. I never go back to the cellar when I'm done with the Fat Black. I did not go because I didn't want to see Anthony there. I walk home. I walk down there and I walk home. It's what I do every fucking Wednesday, the exact same thing. And I guess he went back over to sit upstairs at the olive tree.
As one does.
Yeah, as one will do.
Yeah.
And apparently Amy was there or had gone on that night at one point. I don't know when she went on. And Bill went in with Kenny. But I didn't know they were going there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get I only saw Anthony's clip. So I don't know about the story.
Yeah.
But I guess Anthony went over to talk to Bill. Bill went, dude, and had no interest in having a, which I believe that sounds like sounds like Bill.
That's similar to what I was told by someone who was kind of in the peripheral,
right,
and heard it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, look, I don't know, I don't know what the root of their falling out is, to tell you the truth, but Ant has said stuff about Bill's wife on his show.
It's a hard one to cross. It's a very tough bridge to cross if you can at all, because once things get that personal.
Yeah, I mean, just from the perspective of anybody who says anything about anyone's significant other, that person tends to keep that problem, right?
There's going to probably
you're going to take your significant other's side every single time.
Yeah, and there's going to be a grudge that probably never gets resolved. And look, people have asked me about what do you think about, like when I do the Patrice benefit, all I care about is getting money for Patrice's mother. Like, I don't get involved with the other.
I'm so glad that was the other side of that sentence, because it sounded like you were just going to say, all I care about is getting paid. As long as you give Jimmy his money, I'll benefit whatever.
No, but do I think that Anthony should have been involved? Yes. I don't know. I don't know the reason he's not involved. No one has told me.
Yeah, I don't know anything
no
about
one
that
has
either.
spoken to me about it. I don't know who made the decision. Did it come from this one? I truly don't know. And do I think he should have been involved with the Patrice stock? Yes, I do. Of course I do.
Sure.
But I don't know who made the decision for him not to be.
No.
I know people say it's Bill, they blame Bill, but I don't know if that's true or not. Bill's not the only person making decisions. And I've never asked Bill. Because again, when it comes to the benefit, he puts on this great thing. It goes to Patrice's mother, and it's going to Vaughn at one point too. I don't know if it still is, but I mean, that's what I'm concerned with when I'm doing it. That's why I don't go into the weeds with any of this stuff, because I want to get money to Patrice's mother. That's why I do it.
And by
the way, to any fan, and I've read this one too. How often do we have to do this for the mother? You're not doing shit. You're just going to a show. We're giving the money. It's coming out of the comics' pockets, not yours. There are people who actually complain, like, "Oh, you're gonna fucking do this forever if we want."
I mean, it's a good show.
But I'm saying it has nothing. The money you get charged for a ticket is the same as you'd get charged for a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, you probably get charged more for a ticket.
You'd pay that much to see Bill alone.
Yeah, it's an incredible lineup. Jon Stewart was on the show this year.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody just wants to help Georgine. And...
yeah.
And,
And by the way, I did find, to digress for 1 second,
of course,
it set me on a bit of a Patrice. I watched things that I haven't watched in probably ever. A couple of things that we were involved with, and I found another Voss thing that needs to... No, I'll do it when he's here. It's minor, but the average fan wouldn't catch it, but Colin will.
He will?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm writing it down because...
Yeah.
Is Voss coming in at any point soon?
I mean, he's not booked.
Let's book him.
I'm sure.
Let's book him, because I'd like to find out about this. Yeah, so you're right.
People have this hunger for comment on it, and it's like, it just sucks. It's people I like who don't like each other, or who are fighting, or whatever their thing is. Like, what do you want me to say about it? I don't like it. I wish it wasn't like that.
But it's also annoying. Like, somebody. I do the YouTube show on Fridays, and so somebody or a bunch of people, a handful of people, super chatted in, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And it's like, that's fair. I open up the super chat, but it's like I just said whatever. I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm not surprised that Ant would want to squash it. I'm not surprised that Bill would still be pissed. I'm not surprised that Club Soda Kenny is a pro's pro, that whoever it is going to do whatever he's hired to do. But then it's like, no matter what you say, your shit gets clipped. Look whose side this person's on. Look whose side that person's on. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and because that goes into people's, like, people on the outside watching who just want to, what side are you standing on? I'm not. I love Kenny, and I love Anthony, and I love Bill. I mean, I'm not trying to be polite by saying that. Their guys have known, Kenny and Bill for 25 years, and Anthony for 23 years or 22 years. Like, what do you want me to tell you? People I love don't like each other. It happens. It sucks, and I wish the days that we had together will never come back. That is the way it is.
Things will never be the same.
They won't. I mean, but we all know that. But then these things happen that kind of cement it. Like, yeah, really. I think that the people look at these moments and go, wow, things really are never going to be the way they used to be.
And that's okay.
I mean,
Move on.
But that's kind of what's going on with it. But as far as taking a side, I'm not going to. So if you need that like podcast, it's not going to happen. And if you need that podcast war mentality, I'm not going to give it to you. And if it disappoints you, good. But you know what I'm saying.
Of course, I know what you're saying, and it is 100% what they want. But I just like that you spell it out so clearly because it's such an insanely, childish. Like, it's two people you know and have known forever. The fact that you're like, you must declare a side.
I won't do it. I just won't do it because even if one of those guys is more wrong than the other, I still love the guy who's wronger. Do you understand what I mean?
100%.
It's like I look at those guys. I'm equally close to both of those guys, especially to Kenny and to Anthony.
I also think that I don't know, the whole thing about making moral judgments on things that don't concern you is kind of okay, if that's your bag, but you don't have to have a side on things that don't concern you one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just because I know the guys and I know people are curious. Hey, what do you think about it?
Sure, of
but
course.
It's just I wasn't
comment on it.
I wasn't there when it happened. There was no reason I wasn't there that it happened. If Ann had texted me back, right after the show, and I knew he was still there, I probably would have been there when it happened.
Right.
Because I probably would have walked over them. Because the last time before this, I saw him was at the cellar and he was at a table upstairs eating, and I sat down and chatted with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I guess it went kind of the way you would think it would go if that's the way it went. I'm not surprised that Ant would want to squash it. I'm not surprised Bill's mad. I'm not surprised that Kenny's Kenny.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what makes Kenny Kenny.
Yeah, and I'd like to know, was he trying to... Because I know Kenny likes Anthony. He knows him for a long time. Or is he trying to make sure that fucking something doesn't start that gets out of hand? I mean, who the fuck knows? Is it one of those things where you're afraid it's going to go to that place? Bill's getting angry, and you just don't want something that is now a physical shoving match between two. I mean, I don't know.
His job's to resolve conflict, ultimately.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Who knows?
So it's very. I hate that happened. I hate that that's the situation. But there's nothing I can do to fix it. There's nothing I can do to fix it. So if anybody's waiting for me to plant a flag, go fuck yourself. I am also not desperate enough for the clicks that I'm going to. I'm just not. I'm not desperate enough to insert myself so people notice me.
When I saw people were clipping my thing, that really wasn't...
A doctor? You're 19?
I remember.
Talk about that on Thursday.
Oh, no, I remember. Yeah, I remember. I'm never going to stop talking about it. I was I don't... you don't... To what end do you want that attention? You know what I mean? Just to be involved in somebody else's conflict? It's gross.
Clinton, Alabama.
Okay.
Is that Alabama? I'm half fucking blind. Really?
It is. What's up, Clint?
I mean, it's supposed to be. We don't know.
Yeah, it's Arkansas.
Alberta.
Hey, Clint.
Detroit.
All right, that was pretty good. I was just wondering if Bill's done kicked Burt to the curb for something he said. Now it's Anthony. I mean, Bill's kind of turning the corner and being a woke kind of bitch here lately. I mean, is he not going to be the same asshole he's always been?
I don't think
grow up.
We talked about this last week. I don't think Bill is woke. There's a really weird thing. When you watch him on SNL, he really infuriated a lot of people.
Yeah.
He infuriated a lot of feminists, and he kind of attacked white women in feminism. But those are the ones who were kind of spearheading Me Too publicly, and he went after them. That was not a woke stance to take.
It's funny.
It was funny too, yeah.
But he's also not taking a stance. I mean, he's married to a black woman. which is fine. I'm married to a woman of color also, but he's kind of picking and choosing who he wants to shit on now.
Well, that's how we all do it, Clint.
Like he used to.
Clint, that's kind of how we all do it. We kind of pick and choose whoever's bothering us at the moment, and we talk about them.
Or who you think is like, oh, that's a funny observation.
Yeah, or that's annoying me lately.
Yeah.
Like there's things that people getting in trouble for saying shit that have infuriated me and I've talked about, and other ones I just haven't talked about. It wasn't because I was afraid to. What? By the way, what about him and Burr? I've heard nothing about that at all until you're saying that.
I don't know. I was listening to Bird on one of I think it's an Are You Garbage podcast because I'm pretty much garbage. But I was listening to him, and it seemed like they just all of a sudden Bert said something, and boom, that podcast was over. They haven't done an episode in like almost, I think, 6 or 8 months or something. But it just seemed weird that Bill was coming around to this total. It seems like coming around to persona that he used to shit all over, which is fine. People have to know, but it's
Clint,
comedy.
Didn't you hear Bill in here last week?
Yeah.
Was there
It's
any?
great. I don't
That's what I mean. Like,
so what did he say that was so woke?
It's so weird about Bill. Like, everybody has these ideas about Bill, but there's no sort of, when he's on SNL, when he's on our show, when he's doing his movies and stuff, it's like there is no evidence. Like, his stand-up is still his stand-up. Like, there's nothing that is backing up this theory that, you know, except that he's famous and people are like, well, now that he's famous, but he's the same guy.
And people are defining certain, whether you want to call it progressive or liberal views, has as him being woke. But he's been that way since I've known him.
Right.
Like, that has not changed. The views on that stuff hasn't changed since I've known him.
Well, he's always said that he would piss off somebody with what he was saying, so I guess it's just time for people like me. But it's
yeah,
okay.
but the Burt thing, by the way.
But I appreciate y'all.
Okay,
Thanks,
Clint, thank you. The Burt thing, this is the first I'm hearing of it. I've heard nothing about that until I read it right here on this.
On the phone screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even, but also, I don't think there's tension between those guys, but I have no idea.
But I'm very comfortable being friends with people who don't like each other. Like, you get used to that when you see enough of your friends fighting. Like, I've got plenty of other friends, comics that don't get along, this one that doesn't like that one. I don't need, it's not fifth grade where I need to go and point and go, him. I don't need to do that. I don't feel obligated to do that. And no one's asked me to do that.
No, well, you're a grown-up. You're not sitting there picking a lunch table and go, well, if they're sitting at that lunch table, I'm sitting at this lunch table, and that means that we don't talk to them.
Yeah.
Nobody does that in real life.
Yeah.
And if they do, they're like, grow up.
Because they're not people, they're not, I don't know any of them, like, just casually, like, yeah, they're people I know a long, long fucking time.
Right.
And the people I like. Like, knowing someone a long time doesn't matter if you don't like them or if you don't like them as much as you used to. But I like all three of them as much as I've ever liked them.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jim. But, it's the truth. Like,
I heard what you said. It was very nice.
Yeah. That's almost too gentle. That's almost too Burt Lahr-ish. So, yeah. And if anybody has any specific questions, if I can answer them, I'll answer them. But that's what I know. Again, I have not talked to Anthony. I have not talked to Bill. I want to talk to Kenny.
Mm-hmm. Chris in Philly has a pretty specific question. What's up, Chris?
Sure.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, I don't want to go back to previous topics, but is Chipperson going to have a sea shanty soon?
Okay, that's something that's hot on people's minds.
If Chip goes back, maybe. By the way, I stopped doing Chip a month or two ago. Just 'cause I didn't feel like doing it anymore. And again, I love how people.
Did you have a falling out with Chip?
Yeah, Bill and Chip had a big fight.
Oh.
Or no, he wouldn't let. I love that one. How come has it been like I don't know how many times. This is what gets annoying, where you have to say the same thing because people don't listen every minute of every day.
They should.
So you say something, and then a month later, some other idiot goes, "Oh fuck, what you want to address it?" In all the time I did Chip, long after Ant and Bill didn't talk, no one ever asked me not to have Anthony on Chip. Never once did it come up.
Oh yeah, it was on Bill's network.
Never. From the producer, whether I would do it at Compound or I would do it at Gas, not once did it come up. Was it questioned? Was the clip different? Nothing. It never once was raised. There was never a falling out with as far as Chip is concerned. There was no reason I switched nights to do it because Wednesdays I started doing the Fat Black. There's just people have this conspiracy mentality like, fuck, there's some shit going on. But there's not.
It'd be fun if there was.
I guess. But it's just exhausting.
Yeah.
It's just exhausting.
But you just got exhausted by doing chip all the time.
I just didn't want to do it anymore.
You just got tired of it.
I just wasn't looking forward to it, so I was done with it. And I'm not going to, for what? Why would I do it? And the Dougs that have gone up are ones that I taped before that I finally got around to editing.
We'll call them bells.
Bells. Yeah.
Yeah. Milady.
Well, yeah. You can only do so much of that shit.
Has the merch slowed down?
I don't know. I don't check. I literally have not checked the merchandise tally.
You got it like
In
that.
a year. No, somebody runs it for me and it goes to the bank, and I told you I don't obsess over that stuff.
Yeah.
Some people I know do, but I don't.